On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels smashed a good game in between two really terrible games, which makes a very terrible baseball sandwich against the Orioles this weekend. There were some wins. We're going to share them, but there was a lot that went wrong, and we're going to talk about that as well. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sorry, Angel fans, this team is frustrating. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, shout out to everybody who says, you know what, these Angels, I can't watch them, but I do like watching and listening to Locked On Angels.
We're here for you.
Yes, happy that you're here with us 5 days a week, every single weekday, Monday through Friday. And we appreciate you being here. Of course, on today's show, we're going to recap the weekend against the Orioles. As Mike mentioned, it was a suck sandwich because they lost on Friday, won on Saturday, and lost on Sunday in horrible fashion. And we'll talk about what happened there, Mike. But let's get into game one that took place on Friday night.
Yeah, Angels lost this one 4-1. I'm going to take you to the end of the game. The Angels are trailing 3-1 in the bottom of the eighth inning. Joe Adell, who had a pretty great weekend, he's leading off. He hits a single up the middle, and then Jorge Soler pinch hits for Kyron Paris. Soler was out because of a groin issue, but he pinch hits for Kyron Paris. He draws a walk, and suddenly things are kind of looking up, right, against this terrible Orioles team. Zach Neto comes up. Johnny had a 13-pitch at bat.
You like that? Pretty
impressive. He did strike out, but here's the critique that I have for him as a nerd with the podcast. You got to make contact there.
Yeah.
You can't swing and miss even after 13 pitches. You wore the pitcher down, and you have to win that battle. And it's the at-bat that you want, right? That's what you want from Zach Neto as a leadoff hitter, as one of your strongest hitters. But it's the Mike Trout syndrome. You got to make contact in those moments, whether it's a soft ground ball to the right side of the infield, to move the runners over, to maybe perhaps get an infield single. I know it's Zach Neto.
Take a walk.
Right, take a walk. All of those things are really important. I was almost going to suggest maybe even a bunt, but I know it's Zach Neto and his bat. But the way that this offense has been playing, I think that you need everybody to play a role and not just be like, well, he's a big bat, so we need him to swing, because in those moments, those guys really haven't come through, have they?
No, not at all. And the problem is and I talked about this Friday before we left for the weekend, we have the two best pitchers in the Orioles rotation.
Yeah.
And that's not saying much, but Tomoyuki Sugano has been great to start the season. Somebody you wanted before the season, Mike, and would have been a great addition to this rotation. And then, of course, Zach Eflin came back and hadn't pitched in like a month. But his stats were good. And those are the only good parts about the rotation. And that's who we ended up facing and losing both of those games, including this one on Friday. So that's the reason why the Angels were in that situation, 4-1. And then you end up in a situation where you can capitalize, and the Angels just didn't, did they?
Yeah. So this inning continued after Zach Neto's strikeout. Nolan Shonowell comes up. Johnny draws a 4-pitch walk. Great eye. But halfway to first base, he realizes that the ump called a strike on that pitch. And there's a graphic that is very telling that you can find anywhere. And if you're watching on the video side, we have it on the screen for you. Look at where that strike was. Look at where strike 4, or the pitch 4 was. He already drew 3 walks, so you can see where the first pitch was, outside. Then the second pitch, down and away, out of the strike zone. Third pitch, way outside. And then that fourth pitch, which was called a strike. John, it's about 2 inches, maybe inch off the plate. Like, that is just a terrible call. And it kind of derailed I think, the whole inning, because it was deflating for Nolan Shonowell to go, seriously, you're calling that? And it seemed like all weekend long, they were calling those pitches off the plate about an inch to an inch and a half a strike, weren't they?
Yeah, it seems like there's and there's been talk about this. I think Logan O'Hoppe spoke about it on Foul Territory, just an overall fundamental change in the way the strike zone is being called this season.
Yeah.
The problem here is, Mike, is that the Angels haven't done enough to not end up in a situation where a call like this impacts the entire game, right? And so the problem is that, yeah, you had a little 8th inning rally going. That's fantastic. And you just wish that it wouldn't come down to that moment taking all the air out of the room, sucking the air out of the stadium. And Nolan did what he was supposed to do. He took a 4-pitch walk, right? And then you realize, oh, the ump didn't call that, and neither did Nolan. He walked down the line, like you said. But it's frustrating because you do want to see somebody stick up for the guys.
Yeah.
As much as Phil Nevin was kind of in over his head with the team that last had Ohtani and Trout on the same team, he stuck up for his guys. He remember, he's pointing down at the plate and calling the umpire blind and all that. And we haven't seen that once out of Wash. Wash had defended his guys whatsoever. We've seen other guys get tossed. We've seen, Johnny Washington get tossed. We've seen the hitting coordinator get tossed and all of that, but never Ron Washington himself. Now, Wash was asked about this after the game. He said, "What can I do about it? We yell from the dugout, but what can we do about it? It might have made a difference. We got another hitter up there in Yohan Moncada, and then we see what happened. Once he called that 3-0 pitch a strike, Shonowell still had 2 pitches to work with. So that's the big key. And I saw a lot of conversation on social media about, Nolan still had something to do with it. Now, pitch number 8 wasn't a bad pitch for him to swing on. It's right there down the middle.
Right.
But unfortunately, it was a fly out. That makes a huge difference. 1 out, bases loaded versus 2 outs with 2 on. And so that's the conversation here is, does arguing make a difference? Does it change the momentum? Does it keep the momentum that was sucked out of the room once Nolan didn't keep it going after that? What do you think?
I feel like it was kind of a deflating moment for the Halos.
Mm-hmm.
But John, the whole game was a deflating moment for the Halos. They only had 4 hits. Joe Adell had 2 of those. He went 2 for 3 in this game. Yeah. They did strike out less than 10 times, but hey, it was 7 strikeouts, right? It's still not great. And here's the thing. On the defensive side, on the pitching mound, Kyle Hendricks pitched really well and kept this team in the game. 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned, 3 walks, 5 Ks. Now, I get it. That's not a great start, but it should be enough for this offense, right? It should be enough for this team to hang in there and knock in some runs, but they just couldn't get anything off of Sagano, and they couldn't rally when they needed to rally because of a moment like this where the ball is off the plate. It's called a strike. It's not a ball. And I think those moments, John, affect these guys in a deeper way than maybe it would affect more professional hitters or maybe veteran players. And the conversation that's been around this team the last few weeks is the veteran players got to step up. And a lot is riding on these young guys. However, these young guys are really learning on the job right now. And I think what Shonowell is learning is that those close pitches, I can't let be close, even though it was like an inch and a half off the plate. I got to maybe take a swipe at it because if this ump's going to continue to call that, I got to protect the strike zone. I got to protect the plate.
Well, and if you look at this again, so he gets that call on the outside. That's a clear ball, but it's called a strike. Nothing else other than pitch number 7, which is on the edge of the zone, called a strike. And I can't remember if it was called a strike or if it was fouled off, but the fact is it's a strike nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
And so, in that moment, he doesn't have to swing again because he's up, 3-1, I should say. But Mike, we've talked about it a lot on this show. These guys have to protect the plate, especially with 2 strikes on them. So maybe Nolan didn't have to take a swipe at that one that should have been ball 4. But there was certainly another pitch in there where, maybe you do take a swipe at something, but it's frustrating because again, when a team is bad, you look at moments like this and you're like, oh, I can't believe it. This ruined everything. This stupid umpire. But it's like, you know what? don't be in that situation.
Yeah.
Don't be down 4-1
right
against Tomoyuki Sugano, who is a great pitcher. And look, the fact that they only had 7 Ks against him, or I should say in this game, and the number of Ks they had against him, he's got mean stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that they had that amount of Ks. However, when you're going up against the rest of this Orioles rotation, like Zach Eflin, right, hasn't pitched in a month, kept the Angels from really pouring it on early on. It's just like when you're playing bad baseball, these moments stand out so much more, and that's a huge issue for the Angels right now. In fact, the fact that Reed Detmers came in and pitched well in this game,
that's a win in this game.
It's a win, but he's they're down 4-1, right, and so that's the thing. It's like that gets magnified. Everything about this team gets magnified when you're playing bad baseball. Now, the good news is that Detmers was hitting almost 97 on his fastball, which is up from 94.5 the previous game. So that is going to make a world of difference. But again, this feels like, is this where we're at? It's just moral victories at this point. And I think that that's a frustrating place to be, right?
Yeah, very frustrating, because that's really, it's searching for something good, because they know that a lot of not good has taken place. And in fact, it'll be a repeat conversation in our third segment, listening to what Taylor Ward said about this weekend. John, it was just looking for moral victories and looking for, it was a 13 pitch at bat from Zach Neto. That was good, but he did strike out, right? I mean, I thought we were past this. Maybe I'm a fool, but I thought we were past this. I thought this was the conversations we would have last year. Hey man, what a growing moment, a growing at bat for Zach Neto. But it seems like we're just hitting copy and paste on the team that we were last year, this year, and in regards to growing and learning and developing again.
You know who has moral victories? The 7-win Colorado Rockies.
Yeah.
Right? They're the ones who should be having moral victories. But the problem is that they have way less of a payroll than we do. And also, they just fired Bud Black. So also on that note, bring him home, baby. Bring in Bud Black. Get him back here in a heartbeat. I would love to see that. But that's the thing, is there are other teams around the league who certainly should be having moral victories. And when the Angels spend what they spent, I'm not saying they, go over the luxury tax or spend a ton of money the way that they could. You shouldn't be counting on moral victories, right?
Yeah. No, I don't want moral victories. I want actual victories. And the Angels did get one in Saturday's game, but then fell apart again on Sunday. And so they went back to the same narrative again. And so that'll be something. And I think I have a thought, John, and we'll get to it in the third segment, that I want to share with our everydayers that about this team that really kind of clicked this weekend. And maybe it's something that our everydayers are aware of, you're aware of, but there was a thought that hit me that I want to share in our final segment as we recap the entire weekend series.
Yeah, we're going to continue our conversation. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we'll get into Saturday and Sunday's game, a win and a loss, an ugly, 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 ugly. Did I mention ugly loss? We'll get into all of that coming right up.
Friends, if you're struggling financially, not sure where your money's going, not sure why that got taken out of your account, and who's spending my money, maybe that's the question you're asking. Well, that's where Monarch Money can help you. They're a personal CFO. They're going to give you full visibility and control over your finances, and clarity is king when it comes to your money. If you don't know where your money's going, it can be a panicky situation. Monarch Money makes it unpanicky. Is that a word, John? Unpanicky? Can I use that?
That's acceptable.
Okay, great. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. You can stop managing your money, start building wealth. Money conversations with your partner are going to be smoother than ever with Monarch Money. Track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals, stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances. It's time with Monarch Money. They want to help you. And when you go to their website, monarchmoney.com, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. They're going to give you 50% off your first year just because you listen to Locked On Angels. Again, monarchmoney.com, use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Get half off your first year.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, Saturday's game was a win. The Angels won this one 5-2. The kind of game they should be playing.
Yeah.
And the kind of game where you see flashes of it here and there. They did it against the Tigers. They did it against the Orioles. There was a game between then and now. I forget which team it was against, but it was like, oh, there they are. That's the team they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so inconsistent and so frustrating to watch, because you can watch them do their thing on Friday night and go, yeah, you know what? Maybe that's a tough loss. A good pitcher on the mound. They just couldn't get anything going. You see them do this on Saturday, and we'll get into the details. Great stuff all around. And then you watch them on Sunday, and they look like a train wreck.
Right.
And so let's at least talk about Saturday and the kind of game that they played that we wish that they would play more of from here on out.
Let's start with the pitching, John. Jack Kohotowicz, he started this game and had a nice rebound start, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 1 run, 4 walks, and 4 Ks, 95 pitches. Struggled with throwing strike one. That's why he had 95 pitches. But getting in and out of trouble in this game was kind of the theme for him. But getting out of the trouble was good. Like, he was able to have some great plays turned behind him, had 2 double plays. In fact, the sinker was doing its job. He didn't allow home runs, which was a big bonus because that was something that he had struggled with in previous starts. Johnny, I put this in here just for you. Okay. You know what he did right? He threw his secondary pitches in the zone, got 11 ground ball outs, but he also must be listening to Locked On Angels because he threw his fastball up in the zone, John. He threw his fastball up and placed it, located it in the zone. He was doing great. Now, Kohotowicz has talked about and was interviewed after the game about some of his struggles in the last few starts. He said, I'm just trying to be perfect. That's why I'm struggling. And he said in this game, he was just trying to stay calm and trust his stuff. He does acknowledge that he needs to clean up the walks. He said, I definitely don't want to do that. Coach Barry Enright and I are working on that and have been over the last week, just figuring out some mechanical stuff. It got me back to moving how I need to just to get a little bit extra velo.
Let me just point out something really fast, Mike. Just something real quick. Something real quick. I've seen people pile on Barry Enright. I know you guys like him, but I think he sucks. And da-da-da-da-da. When did you ever go through the OC Register, go through the Athletic, go through MLB from Rhett Bollinger and his recaps? When did you ever hear a starter say, Coach Matt Wise and I, we've been really working on this and trying to figure out the mechanics and stuff. And da-da-da-da. When did you ever hear that about Matt Wise? So pardon me if I'm pleased with the fact that Barry Enright actually cares and tries to get into some of this stuff. And it doesn't seem to work, Mike, no matter how much we say like, hey, Kyle Hendricks, turn some things around. Or, hey, Brock Burke comes over from the Rangers with a almost 10 ERA and turns into a decent lefty in the bullpen. Doesn't matter how much we give credit to Barry Enright. It's going to bounce off those particular people who think that he sucks. It's just going to right off their face, right?
And here's why. Hendricks in the previous game pitched well. Yeah. And they lost. Yeah. And that's the problem. So then Hendricks has got a big giant L in his record and his ERA is up, even though he gave up just 3 runs, right? And in this game, it could have easily been a loss for Kohotowicz. It could have easily been a loss, but the offense actually came through and the bullpen was actually strong. And so that's where the narrative shifts, because most people will look at, well, they lost 3-1, so or 4-1, and that's why Barry Enright sucks. But in reality, if you have a starter that's going into the 5th inning and he's only given up 3 runs, more than likely a good team is going to be in that game and have an opportunity to win.
Something Jack Kohotowicz said is that he's been trying to be perfect, which is why he struggled. Mike, how many times have you said these pitchers have to be perfect?
Yep.
Because there's no room for error. Because
Absolutely.
the offense has not been coming through for them. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Angels got out to the early lead and then Kohotowicz was able to cruise through his. I know he struggled with the walks. I know through a lot of pitches. But when he said, I've been struggling with trying to be perfect, he didn't have to be perfect in this game. He was a little bit more free and easy, which probably is why there were some walks there, right? You're a little more free and easy. You're throwing a little bit easy breezy, right? But at the same time, I think that setting up your pitcher for success begins with an early lead, which is what the Halos did for him in this one.
Yeah, bullpen was good in this game. Hector Neris came in with 2 on and 1 out in the 6th inning, and he struck out the only batter that he faced. He's retired all 6 hitters that he's faced in the 3 games up until this point that he got in. Jose Fermin came in, John, his last 3 outings, 3 innings pitched, just 2 hits. He struck out 4, looking a bit more confident. And then, of course, Ryan Zefferjon comes in. Brock Burke actually closed this game down, did give up a home run, but the lead was insurmountable, right?
Yeah,
there
was 5-1, and then it was
point.
5-2.
Yeah. And then the offense, John, for the Halos is exactly what we would love to see from this Halos in a consistent manner. Joe Adell had his 3rd home run in 5 games at this point. Wash said he's starting to have a better thought process at the plate. The results are better. He was aggressive tonight. They've been throwing in strikes, and he made them pay for it. And then, Johnny, Matthew Lugo, who was called up on Friday, got into this game, started, had his first major league hit, an RBI triple, said he was hoping to hit it out, but he said, I'll take the triple. And then how about Nolan Shonowell? After this game, he went 2 for 3 in this game. He was struggling. This was his 4th multi-hit game of the last week, but before that, he was struggling with a 176 batting average over 16 games, had just 9 hits in those 16 games. Last 5 games, 9 hits total.
Yeah.
So he's starting to heat up a little bit. And if the Angels can just string some hits together and not just rely on some of their young, big hitters, games like this are probably going to be more consistent, but
they're within reach.
They didn't have it, right? They didn't have it this weekend. This felt like an anomaly game, right? This felt like a game that, who's this team?
Yeah.
They actually won, right? That was my question after I saw the score. I was excited, but that was my question.
Yeah, exactly. Now, eye test, and I'm going to go back and look. And I'll definitely dig into the Baseball Savant StatCast here. Nolan seems to have shortened up his swing, Mike.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that he's had a lot more success over that time. What I'm going to have to do is break it down by date and see, what it looked like before this success, what the swing length looked like after this success, because I think that's going to make a huge difference. So that'll be something. Yeah, jot that down. Producer Steve, or do we still have a producer?
I don't know.
Oh, all right. Well, somebody write that down for me, and I'll get into those details, and we'll figure out if that's the change that Nolan Shonowell had made. But again, yes, great to see Matthew Lugo get that RBI triple. Look, man, I know he wants a home run, but the triples are real fun, especially the way it went over Mullen's head and then it bounced and it just snuck away from him. It was like, that happens to us.
Right.
That happens to the Angels. So to see it on the other foot was really great. Oh, Blue Jays, by the way. That was when I was saying, who is this team? And so, yeah, the anomalies that you mentioned are frustrating because it's the exception to the rule more often than not that the Angels have this game where they put it all together, but then the very next game, it goes right out the window.
I need a snack. I mean, this team is frustrating, right? But I don't want to get all fat and giggly watching this. I don't want to stress eat. Nobody wants that, right? That's why I love Wonderful Pistachios, because they're filled with a good source of protein. Each Wonderful Pistachio is really good for you. They're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. They're packed with fiber, Johnny, and better for you unsaturated fats help you keep going all day long, or maybe help you to keep going during a game that you are watching. You're not sure why you're watching because this team is frustrating, right? And as you're snacking, maybe grab the no-shell variety. It's easy. Just grab and go, pop it in your mouth and fill up your belly. Or maybe perhaps you want to fiddle a little bit and have the in-shell option. They're a classic favorite. You can get snackin and get crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Final game of the weekend was the Angels losing 7-3. They returned to terrible baseball on Sunday, Mike. It looked promising to start. The O's did get a first inning run, but the Halos answered in the bottom of the first. Taylor Ward doubles and Soler scores. Then Ohapi singles in Ward. That was all with 2 outs, too. So it was a nice example of situational hitting. 2 words that we haven't been able to put in the same sentence for a while. But then it all falls apart, right, Mike?
Yeah, they squandered a scoring opportunity in the bottom of the third. So Moncada leads off with a double. Soler walks, and he's been drawing walks lately, which is a great sign. And then Taylor Ward smacks a single to right. It was hard hit, but he smacked a single to right. Bo Porter holds up Moncada at third because Tyler O'Neill is in right field, and he's got to cannon for an arm. And if he sent Moncada, he probably would have been thrown out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been frustrating. So Bo Porter holds him up. But Jorge Soler is running full sprint, head down, round second base, and ends up at third base, looks up, and Moncada is standing there.
What are you doing here?
with Bo Porter, right?
Yeah.
And then gets tagged out, of course, and that didn't end the inning. It was the second out, and then they ended up not being able to push a run across, which is classic Angels, right? And Wash said about this, he said it was a good decision by Bo to hold the runner. The problem came when Soler was running with his head down, wasn't looking. He said these simple, fundamental issues that get in the way of our winning, putting things together, is what is frustrating. And what I saw in this game was a moment where they could get some more momentum against a pretty good pitcher, but they immediately lost it because Soler's not paying attention. And that's it's a double-edged sword. And I get it, because you want guys hustling, going first to third. But when you know you have a runner in front of you, you have to pay attention to what that runner is doing. So I appreciate that Soler, with a bit of an injury, he's feeling a little bit better, is hustling off of first base. But man, you ran us right out of the inning. And again, unfortunately, classic Angels, right?
Yeah.
They lost all the momentum in that inning.
Yeah. And the problem is, Mike, and you just said it, you have to be aware of what's happening in front of you. But if you zoom out, it's the phrase we always say on this show: read the freaking room.
Yeah.
We don't always say it that way. We say read the room, but this time it's read the freaking room, guys.
Room. Yep.
Because that seems to be the issue. Now, I want to go through the details of Tyler Anderson's start, but then I want to circle back to something about what happened in this game.
Okay.
Tyler Anderson was charged with 3 runs in this game, but it came after some misplays in the field. 3 runs, 1 earned, 2 walks, 5 Ks. He went 5 innings. He's got a 2.58 ERA to start the year. Ward made a mistake. The first mistake when he lost a routine fly ball with 2 outs in the first. It dropped in behind him. Run scoring triple at that point.
Right.
Ward said, I just lost it in the sky. Here's the problem. There will be moments where guys lose the ball, right? To the lights, to the sun, to the sky. The weather in Southern California was weird today. It was like hot, but then there's like cloud cover and stuff. Fine. Okay. That happens. It's part of baseball. But Mike, when you don't signal, like, I don't know where this ball is, like, somebody help me, right? Yeah. That's what leads to a run scoring triple, right? And what's the problem is that Ward lost it and didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like another read the room moment of, I don't know where this ball is. Somebody help me out. Was there any signal? Was there any help there? I mean, was it last year when Ward was on deck and didn't tell somebody to get down?
Yeah.
And, and again, this goes back to these moments get magnified and amplified because of how bad they're playing right now. And so, yes, what would have been anybody could make this mistake. But the problem is, fundamentally, including the Soler thing, Ward didn't signal for anybody to help him out. And that's what's frustrating. Taylor Ward said, all around, I think I need to tighten up, myself included. Just learn from it and turn the page. When do you run out of pages here?
Right.
Wardy? Because at this point, it's so this is a roller coaster ride of a team where you get a little bit of hope. You get a little excited that they, beat the Blue Jays the way that they should, 2 games in a row, and then lose the final. You think, oh, they won on Saturday, they could take the series on Sunday. They looked really good against the playoff Tigers, right? But then they let you down, and it's the biggest drop in the world. But Mike, here's what I wanted to circle back to.
Yeah.
This team is fundamentally gone. Ron Washington is supposed to be the guy, the infield guru, the guy who, teaches you the fundamentals and all that stuff. What happens to a guy like Ron Washington when your players who you've been with for a year and a half almost, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when the fundamentals aren't getting through anymore? Is this a Wash problem or a player problem? What do you say?
It brings me to the point that I wanted to make. Talk about these veterans, John. there's a gap between these veterans and the young players on this team. Let's talk about Zach Neto for a moment. Neto is 4 dimensions, right? Like he's got all of these great abilities, and he's not just an offensive guy, he's a defensive guy. He's a leader, right? He's got passion and fire. Logan O'Hoppe, I put in that category. Sean O'Well, I think, teeters on that category a little bit. But when you look at the veterans on this team, they're flat, right? They're a white sheet of paper with no writing on it. That's Taylor Ward, right?
Yeah.
That they're just flat. All that they do is what they are supposed to do in that moment. And sometimes they fail at that. For example, you mentioned Taylor Ward not signaling that he doesn't see the ball, because Taylor Ward is thinking, I got to catch this ball. I got to catch this ball. I can't see the ball. I can't see the ball. Oh, the ball's over my head. And he's literally, it's an Excel spreadsheet for these veterans, right? And they're just going line by line by line instead of seeing the whole thing in front of them. And one of the reasons why this team is struggling is because they don't have veterans that can read the room. Like you're saying, they don't have veterans that seem to at least know how to rise to the occasion. Maybe they know what the occasion needs, and they don't know how to rise to it. And maybe it's because they don't have that gear. And I don't think Taylor Ward has that gear. I don't know if Jorge Soler has that gear, if you want to put him in the veteran category, or anybody else on this team. It just doesn't seem like these veterans have layers to them like the young players that have been drafted and brought up early bring to this team. Matthew Lugo hits a home run on Sunday. John, I feel like he's got some layers. And I feel like dude should be in there every single freaking day. He should be in there playing because he's got some layers to him, some passion, some excitement. He seems like he knows what he's doing. I know he had a slip in the game where he came in to sub in Friday night's game and he missed a fly ball, but those things happen. But what I find in this guy, after hearing him speak after the games, is he's very different than just, well, all around, I think we need to tighten it up, and including myself, and just need to learn from it and turn the page.
Open a new Excel spreadsheet.
Right. You're out. You're out of Excel spreadsheets. Your book is over. You've gotten to the end. And the story that you've told is it's boring. It's exhausting. You don't know what you're doing. You're one-dimensional. That's the veterans on this team, Johnny.
Yeah. You know what, Mike? I'd even push back and say that, some of the young guys can be one-dimensional at times as well. Yeah. I mean, we finally see Kyron Paris take a better 2-strike approach.
Yes.
We've seen Joe Adell make an adjustment with, hey, I got to be more aggressive up there because, these guys are taking advantage of the fact that I'm not swinging at that first pitch and they're trying to get strike one. So I'm going to hit it out. And so maybe that's why Joe Adell has improved and had a great run in these last 5 games. But all of that to say, at least when it comes to the young guys, they are making those adjustments. They are making those things that, oh, you know what? I do need to do this differently. But you're right. Like Taylor Ward trying to catch that ball, never did the thought cross his mind of, oh crap, I need to call, the center fielder over to help me out with this one, or even Neto, right, to tell me, hey, where is it, Neto? I can't see it, right? And never did that thought cross.
No
his
hands
mind.
out, no shaking his head, no waving it. I mean, like he's literally just looking up, and then the ball's over his head. And it's like, so you said you didn't see it, you lost it in the sky. When did that happen, Taylor?
When are you going to communicate that to the rest of you? Taylor Ward, don't be John Frisch in softball out in the outfield, please. That's the last thing that we want, and that should never happen in a professional game.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, get in the comment section for today's show. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're looking for some Super Halo Bros merch, maybe a already sell t-shirt, you can head on to our merch store. In the episode description, there's a link there for you. Mike, what do we have on deck for Tuesday's show?
Angels play the Padres tonight. Yay. And we're going to recap that game, but we are going to talk about the move that they made to send Ryan Johnson down, and they sent him down. So we're going to talk about why they did that, what Wash had to say about that, and what it means for his future on the Halos tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I'm bummed about this Padres series because I've adopted the Padres as my fun team. Like, my loyalty is to the Angels, but when I want to watch a team that I can be like, yeah, I want to see what they do tonight, they've been my fun team. So now I get to watch them beat up on the Halos, or maybe they won't. Maybe the Angels will do the anomaly thing and take the series. So anyway, we appreciate you being here, friends. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
A fun team.
Everybody needs a fun team.
Yeah.
Not your loyalty team, just a fun team.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.